Hello and welcome to Qtr Time podcast. I'm Lucy G.
And I'm Lucy P.
And we're here to bring you all the netball goodness you never knew you needed. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special bonus episode on the 2025 Netball Super League squad reveals. Loose! Reunited and it feels
so good. Yes, I'm so excited, Luce. It's honestly been such a long time. I literally had to dust off my podcast microphone. I'm not joking. And it's very exciting because we've got a lot to talk about today, Luce, haven't we?
We do indeed. Tell us what we've got coming up today, my friend.
Okay, so firstly, we'll be giving you the biggest headlines from an extremely exciting Netball Super League signing period, including the key players who missed out, the big moves, the surprising news, and everything in between. All the teams have now been announced in one fell swoop, so we'll be helping you to digest everything and figure out what on earth has happened. We'll then be bringing you a super detailed chat with England Roses legend and Sky Sports pundit Pamela Cookey. Expect a close look at the strengths and weaknesses of each team, Pam's thoughts on some of the surprising news, including key players missing from the league, her expectations for the season ahead, and so much more.
So excited. And of course, I am here today at the Sky Sports studios for a little behind the scene look. Very thrilled to have been invited here by Sky Sports. So it really has all been kicking off today. So good.
Yeah, and loving your Insta story content as well, Luce. Absolutely fab. Keep it up.
Thank you very much.
But before we get into our headlines, do you want to just give us a quick recap on where we're at the moment?
I will try and be as quick as I can, but a lot has happened. So for anyone who's been living under a rock, the signing
previously on Grey's Anatomy.
That's literally it. So the signing window opened on Monday, the 1st of July, and clubs were given until 5 p.m. on Friday, the 23rd of August. So nice, big, chunky window to register their 10 players. For anyone who hasn't seen, we do already have 2 players who've departed for Suncorp Super Netball in Imogen Allison and Mary Chollock. So wishing them all the best of luck. Very well deserved. And all the other teams have now announced their final squads for the next season. Our brand new clubs in Birmingham Panthers and Nottingham Forest have had to sign their full roster from scratch, which must have been a really interesting experience from them. We've got quite a few of their players coming from teams that are no longer part of the competition for 2025. And of course, those are Surrey Storm, Team Bath, Seven Stars and Strathclyde Sirens. So much more. The number of playing spots has been reduced to 80 from 120 in 2024, or 150 if you include training partners. And that is, of course, owing to the league moving from 10 teams to 8 and reducing squad sizes from 12 to 10. So more on this to come later. In terms of player eligibility, teams are allowed 2 non-UK players, but restrictions still apply in terms of where they can and can't play in the same third of the court. And of course, the under-23 league, which is going to underpin the Super League, they can have 16 to 20 players, including 4 who are actually over 23. And these players are able to play for the respective Super League team in case of an injury or illness. So if someone goes down during the course of the season, the clubs will have to pull up from the under-23 teams as temporary replacements. So there is a significant possibility that we will see some of these players play throughout the course of 2025. So that's all the kind of key info that you need done. So Luce, if we move on to squads, what are your overall thoughts before we get stuck into our chat with Pam?
Well, I think it's really interesting because seeing the squads all out in full together, it looks very exciting. I think there's a good mixture of youth and experience across most teams, a couple of new players thrown in the mix there, which is always nice to keep it fresh. I'm not sure if there might still be a little bit of a top 4 on paper, just given the distribution of England Roses players. But only time will tell, and it's still very early days. A couple of big retirements, Kerry Armand, Nia Jones, Georgia Lees. Few key and notable names who missed out. Jade Clark, for starters. Sophie Drakeford-Lewis, Kadeen Corbin, Caroline O'Hanlon, Hannah Passmore, Ella Powell-Davis, Emily Nicol. And looking at that is just a few, by the way, that's just a few of the bigger names. And looking at our non-UK players, Sami Ngabane, Tawera Vinkumbo, Ina Marie Venter, Lefebvre Radaman. I mean, these are some big names that we've seen in the Super League for the past God knows how many years that are now missing. I mean, I don't remember an era of Super League without a Corbyn sister.
I know. Or a Jade Clark.
Yeah. Or a Jade Clark, absolutely. So real changing of the guard feeling. And with obviously all of these names, it's hard to know whether it was a case of they weren't signed. In the case of our non-UK players, did they decide to move home? Are they taking a break? But I do think there is a few surprises in terms of the names not continuing. And actually, it's worth noting that back in May, Hallie Adio, SDL, Laura Malcolm, and Elle McDonald, it was announced that they would be taking a step back from the Full-Time Roses programme. So perhaps with SDL, that's why she's maybe taking a planned break, but we don't know.
Yeah, very interesting. And I think as well with the new players that have come to the league, there's quite a few Aussie players who have come now, which I'm kind of loving. You've got mid-quarter Tyler Orr, Thunderbirds training partner going to London Pulse, defender Gabby Coffey, who is just the name on everybody's lips at the moment. She was a Vixens training partner. You got 2 Aussies going to Mavs. It's just so many exciting signings, and there's also 5 Aussies playing in the ANZ Premiership as well, and no New Zealand players in the NSL. So I think it's great to see that the Aussie training partners are now starting to try and seek out more court time around the world.
Yeah, no, totally. I think the production line is alive and well, really, over in Australia. And talking of Australia, almost forgot, Sam Wallace-Joseph back in the Netball Super League for the first time since 2016, I believe, when she played for Mavericks. Pretty huge coup for Lightning, given the loss of Mary Chollock. And we'll actually discuss that a little bit later on in the episode as well. And in terms of the other notable non-UK players joining the league, we've got Ugandan defender Felida Kadondi, Roline Strutka, the South African shooter, who was also a training partner in Mavericks in SSN. So quite a number coming over from SSN in that training partner space. And so I'm interested to see how they bring that high performance environment experience to the new professionalized league that we will have in the UK.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, it's not all about the players, coaching wise. We've got 2 new coaches to the league in Raina Bloxham and Chelsea Pittman. Raina, obviously, extremely experienced in the ANZ Premiership space, but Chelsea, brand new on the coaching scene, straight into a head coach role in the Netball Super League. So that's going to be very, very interesting to see how she gets on. I think they've been really smart in recruiting Shona Forbes as an assistant coach, just to provide that bit of support to Chelsea and the sort of infrastructure around her. But I think, as we look to enter that professional era with the Netball Super League 2.0, I do think it's going to be a challenge for the coaches as well as the players in as great a measure.
Yeah, big challenge, isn't it, to step up, increase media opportunities and responsibilities, all the off-court stuff that comes along with being a head coach. And I mean, for Chelsea, it's a big ask, her first real coaching gig, to be honest. And it's a brand new franchise attached to a football club with expectations. They'll have things that they want her to meet and all of that off-court stuff. And it's kind of like what Liana Leota said around when you get to that head coach position, it's not so much about the actual coaching, it's more about the people management side of things. And so I think it's going to be a big learning curve for Chelsea.
Yeah, couldn't agree more, but I'm really excited to see how she goes. I'm absolutely buzzing for her. Now, coming up next, we dissect the 2025 Super League squads with none other than netballing legend Pamela Cookey. I am absolutely thrilled to welcome the netball legend that is Pamela Cookey. Pam, how are you doing?
Oh, you are too kind. Pleasure, as always, to come and get to chat to you and to chat about netball.
Right, it's the dream, absolute dream. And obviously we're here today at the squad reveal day at the Sky Studios. How much have you been loving the content that's coming out?
Oh, Sky have done a phenomenal job and they have taken netball to a new level over the year. So the fact that this has happened today as well is a step again in that upwards trajectory and what they're trying to do to bring it to the fans, bring it to the masses and share those stories So we have a proper launch day. I love it. No drip feeding of players here, and then in 2 weeks' time you get someone else. It's like today is the day where we know all the squads.
Yeah, and I love the way that they've done it, like the staggered release, so people get time to digest and chat and review, and then the next squad comes out. And I just think they've really put a lot of effort into this season. It just feels already, even though we're several months away, it feels like the excitement's already starting to build. Like, I can't wait.
Oh, definitely. Same. Me too. Like, we closed last season. We heard about Super League 2.0 and what was about to come. We heard about which clubs had finally made it into that final selection. And now we get to know the players. And it feels like we're getting there slowly. And then it's going to be a big reveal. And hopefully all that's been talked about comes into fruition.
Yeah, 100%. Well, let's get stuck into it, Pam. Before we get into the detail of each team, what are kind of your key takeaways from the signing period so far? Obviously, all the squads have come out now. So what's your primary takeaways?
I think there's a mixed bag. And I think some teams you'll see a lot of players that we're very familiar with and very useful. And those combinations have stayed. Others have had to you'll see some units that are developed but might bring some pockets of internationals or pockets of sparks. There's been seen some player movements around some key players who you know very well from certain franchises have now gone to others. So there's a mix, which is good. You've got that kind of stability, but then you've also got a little bit of movement to change things up. And obviously there's only 10 players in a squad. So there's quite a few players that we would have seen last season that unfortunately either they didn't get a contract or they've decided that they want to take a step back from Super League this year. Yeah,
or potentially even playing in the under-23 league as well, I guess. And who are some of the probably more surprising names, in your opinion, that have missed out on the Super League squads?
I'd probably say first one, I love a Jade Clark.
Yes, who doesn't love a Jade Clark? Come on now.
She's just been the stalwart of netball in England for so long, and she's playing in New Zealand, playing in Australia, and that experience that she brings. Didn't get much court time last season, but for me, I still think she has a lot that she can give to a game, and so that is a key miss, I think. Sami Ngubane, that played up in Sirens last season, the goal attack. I thought when she came over and started, the South African youngster, she really brought a spark to the league. And I think, it's a shame that we don't get to see her going forward in our league. And lastly, I think, so I'm going through, that was centre court, I've done shooters, and then defensive end, I'd go Millie Sanders. Yeah, she was rising up. She's done a lot of work coming through that Manchester Thunder pathway. Got a bit of court time, but I think there's still more to come from her. So maybe not seeing her this year, but potentially in the future, she might be back in the mix again.
I certainly hope so, because I think particularly when she was at Thunder, she was just on an upward trajectory. I mean, I think from memory, she started in the 2022 grand final. And I think, the move to Sirens, starting in wing defence, I don't know if that necessarily played to her strengths. It obviously grew her game while she was there. But I think they missed a bit of a trick not having her more in that goal circle. So, yeah, really sad to not see her in the league for 2025. The other big one for me, for the first time in God knows how long, we have no Corbyn sisters. Obviously, Kadeen Corbyn also missing from our 8 teams. I mean, it feels like a real transition period, and it really is the start of it's like the change of the guard, isn't it?
Yeah, and I guess I feel for Kadeen, I've played with her both at Super League and at England, and what she can bring to a game is phenomenal. But as you say, age creeps up on you, and then you want to also bring through some of those youngsters who are performing at that level, and there becomes a time where that change needs to happen, and unfortunately for Kadeen, it was at this moment. But I'm sure we'll still see her in and amongst netball in some capacity.
Yeah, I imagine we'll probably see her on a coaching bench in the not too distant future. Obviously, that's a real strength of hers as well. She's had a little dabble in the men's and mixed game as well with London Giants last year. So, yeah, hopefully see her on a coaching bench very, very soon. And looking at the squads as a whole, there's a few things that stood out to us, which will come through as we go through squad by squad. But one of the things was that there's 4 teams out of the 8 who have 4 current England Roses, and 4 teams who either have none or just the one. And obviously there's a lot of other factors at play here, and it's by no means an accurate measure of the quality of the team as a whole. But I do wonder, with the teams that are stacked with the Roses versus the teams that aren't, is there a potential risk, do you think, of seeing a split in terms of a fairly predictable ladder, like that top half of the table and bottom half of the table. Should we look to do a sort of New Zealand tiering system? What are your thoughts on it?
Oh, good question. I think, the tiering thing was tried a few years way back, and I think there was one stage I was going to Northumbria until I did my ACL. So maybe that was a stop there. So I think it's difficult in the way that until the league is fully professional, you can't force players to move and change jobs or whatnot because we're not there yet. In terms of where the Roses players are at, there's lots of different factors in that. It's, one, someone might want to develop that combination to be a better Rose or to get more options playing in the England squad. So that's why they go there. Or it might just be that that's where their life is at the moment and it just so happens that other players are around you. In terms of like you were saying about where would they finish in the league because you've got more internationals in one team, of course, that will play an important fact. I think after seeing the squads from all teams, I do definitely think there's a top 4 and there's a bottom 4. And I just hope as we continue progressing and we start to continue to make this more professional, that gap will start to change.
And I think the thing is to remember here is that when we talk about professionalisation, we are not talking click of a button overnight. We've raised the standards. Everyone's getting paid, thousands of thousands. Like that's just not going to happen. But do you feel like these first steps that we're making have been on the whole positive?
Yeah, I do. And I totally agree with you. Like this is not going to happen overnight. But we also don't want it to happen in 10, 15 years time. Like we want something to move quickly so that young girls can see it and go, okay, I can be an international netball player, or I can play in a Super League team that's fully professional, and that can be my job if I choose that to be. And just have that excitement. And the more people you get involved, the higher it lifts that standard. And so I do think we're definitely on that right path to make that change. And then I think like everyone thinks it's like, can we make it happen now? Like we've done the talk. Can we actually make it come out? And I think there's some really great people that are involved in it across all the franchises and across the Netball Super League that potentially can have that impact.
Yeah, I mean, just from this squad reveal day alone, I'm really hopeful now for the changes that will come into place, not just for 2025, but beyond. And, I'm sure there's a rebranding that's going to be coming our way very soon. So, yeah, I think it's a really exciting time. And for me, it's just a case of watch this space. Like, you can feel something bigger and better is on the way, and bring on 2025, right?
So totally, something needed to change. We couldn't continue as we were. And so, the positivity is there, the excitement is there, people are getting behind it. So we'll continue doing that, and we just pray that it all comes to fruition.
I'm sure it will. Well, let's get stuck in to our squads. We're going to go in the order that the teams announced. So obviously, first up was London Pulse. It's a fairly consistent squad for Pulse, and to be honest, that's no surprise given that they finish inside the top 4 for the last 3 seasons. So really, really strong. Based on their performance for 2024, what gaps or chinks in the armour did you identify that they need to address with this new squad?
Yeah, well, London Pulse have been that kind of exciting, fearless, young players that everyone got really excited about, and we saw the excitement on the court, and we saw players like Fumi Fadoju coming out with some phenomenal, like next level skill. Liv Sheen has really grown in that goal shooter position. Alicia Scholes at wing attack, again, that young short pocket rocket, but is just whizzing through, but can feed some lovely ball in. So we've seen that, but we're yet to see them like really grasp them and win those crucial games. And when you talk about chink, I think for me, that's that experience in those pressure situations. Who's that player or those group of players that can go, okay, how do we bring this back, and if we've got the lead, we stay in the lead, or if we're behind, how do we win ball, and how do we make sure we convert at those crucial times? So that piece for me, that experienced leader player, has been missing for them.
Yeah, and I think they were really unlucky with Jay Clark being injured last season for a significant portion of the season, because that it was their experienced player. She would have been the one to really lead the charge. And it's interesting that you say that, because in a recent interview with Sam, she said she wanted to bring in a world-class mid-quarter to connect that attack and defence, as this was missing last season due to injury, inexperience, etc. But they have signed the most possibly inexperienced player in the whole league in Gracie Smith, who is just 15 years old currently. Now, don't get me wrong, Gracie is phenomenal. I've seen her play a number of times. I was commentating at the school games that she was playing in last weekend. She is going to be a star of the future. But at 15 years old, you do have to wonder that inexperience that hit them last season, have they just gained more inexperience this season?
Well, in terms of that, at 15 years old, yes, that is definitely more inexperienced. And we've not seen her on this higher level stage. Yes, you talked about the school games last week, and she's been in the England under-17 squad. She got picked when she was 14. And so she's been in that kind of semi-performance environment, but she's still very young. And like you say, a star of the future. It's whether that kind of fearlessness and that kind of let's just go out and play because I'm loving just being here kind of thing translates into I can play that week in, week out. And when you're up against some seasoned players, it's, who knows whether she can survive. I know I played in under-17s when I was 15, but my first Super League or Super Cup at the time then was later down that line. So you had that chance to kind of build and develop and play against the likes of Billy Bowers, and you get that kind of through training. You get that grit and that kind of toughness mentally and physically. So as a 15-year-old, I think it might be quite tough for her, but at the same time, it's quite exciting. And no, apart from like, as you see, seeing her at those school competitions, no one's really seen her. And if Sam has seen something in her that we've not seen and it can contribute to that team really nicely, I don't know.
Yeah, I think if it was still squad sizes of 12, I probably wouldn't bat an eyelid. But with it being condensed now to 10, it does sort of raise a couple of questions. But I think it also indicates just how exciting of a prospect she is. And let's not forget as well, they've also picked up Tyler Orr. She is a massive win for them. She's adapted her game quite significantly from being predominantly a defensive mid-court player to now being able to play across 3 mid-court positions. So with the likes of Tyler, Gracie, Alicia Scholes, how do you see that mid-court working for London Pulse?
Well, like I say, with 10 players, you have to have some versatility in your squad to be able to cross over to different positions just in case. But if you've got a squad of 7 that you can run every single game for every quarter and they're super strong, then happy days, you go do it. But the likelihood of that happening, not so much. So with those 3 players in there, I know obviously Liz is more of the attacking side of things, Taylor and Gracie more of the defensive mid-court. It will be seeing how they fit into the established players they've already got, like Zara Everett, who obviously wing defence, goal defence. Like she was a captain last year. You'll see her starting. So it's how do you manage the expectations of these players and get the best out of them so that they perform every single week.
Yeah. I'm really keen to see how they go. I think they're a little bit of an unknown in that mid-court in particular. And speaking of, some defensive players, you mentioned Zara, you mentioned Fumi earlier on. Are you surprised to see Fumi here in the Super League for 2025? Because Sam did say in the Sky interview this morning that her players had offers from across the globe, and you have to assume that Fumi was one of them who got offers from SSN, ANZ, wherever. Are you surprised to still see her here?
I'm glad we still see her here. I think it's definitely her trajectory. She burst onto the scene, and she's still learning her craft, even though she's already so good. And we don't know what offers she did get or what she didn't get or how it all worked, or whether she's just happy at the moment just to be here and loving her netball and wanting to continue progressing now and then in the future. When she's a little bit older, a little bit wiser, she might then head over there. So I think she's a phenomenal player. And whether here or in SSN, I think she will continue to grow. Yeah,
and I think as well, you have to remember she's still so young as well. So actually, it could be a really smart decision to stay here just that little bit longer. Like with Mary Chollock, she said, I'm in no rush to go over there. I'll go over when I'm good and ready. And maybe Fumi's doing a similar thing. But how lucky are we to be able to still have that on our courts week in, week out?
And because SSN has broken some players. Like when they've gone out too early and they're not ready, or it's a very different environment and culture. Others have thrived, and so it's a gamble as well. And so I think I definitely agree. Like, have a few more a year or however many, and then make your decision.
Absolutely. And obviously, before we move on to the other teams, we've got to mention that attacking end as well. They've lost Berry Neal, which is going to be huge for them, but they've also picked up youngster Sophie Kelly, who has really wowed us at points. How do you see not just the attacking end for Pulse, but them as a complete squad? Is this going to be the year? Is 2025 their year?
I think it's great that Nicole stayed in terms. And so Nicole and Liv, to see that combination develop further, another year under their belts, will be interesting to see. Obviously, losing Berry Neal, that's big for them. you've got Halima Adio at goalkeeper, who is real experience in a real very big leader in their squad, and we saw that last year in terms of how much influence she has. I think they're going to be up there, but I don't know whether they'll be lifting that trophy. But I'm expecting to see some great things from them.
Yeah, I'd say a top 4 finish for sure. Okay, next up then is one of our newbies, Nottingham Forest. Now, they were just a complete unknown, but obviously being backed by a Premier League club, I think a lot of people were expecting big things from them. They've got Chelsea Pittman, of course, as their head coach. Probably quite green in terms of her coaching experience. I think it's her first proper coaching role. Based on what you know about Chelsea as a player and as a person, what brand of netball do you think that we might see from Nottingham Forest?
I've always heard good things. Like I've never been in a squad with Chelsea, but from what I hear from all the players that she's played with, is she's like a really open, she's well respected, very committed and focused on delivering a good performance. And so I think that's what she will bring to a coaching role. You would think that's what she would bring to that coaching role, and then further develop. Like she's always looking, how do I make others around me better? And so bringing that into that coaching environment, awesome. I think the likes of, well, Tamsin Greenway hadn't had a high role before she became coach. Sarah Francis-Baveman, before she went to Loughborough Lightning, hadn't had what you'd class as a top role. So you've got to start somewhere. And so this is her opportunity now to start and develop. And she's got some good people around her, like Nottingham Forest, Karen Atkinson. She's helping with it behind the scenes. Sarah Francis-Baveman is doing a bit of work with her as well. So you've got people to support as she develops, and that's what you need. It's not about throwing someone into a role and going, oh, there you go.
Yeah. Run away.
Yeah, you go and you do whatever. It's like, well, how can we support them be the best coach that they can be and develop from all that player knowledge that she's got from around the world. Like she's played in so many different teams, internationally as well as domestically, that she's picked up so much knowledge and experience from. Now can she share that to others?
Yeah, and I think, I don't know if a lot of people would have known that Sarah was sort of having a helping hand in this as well, so I think that's really interesting. And I think as well, Shona Forbes has been confirmed as assistant coach now, and I think that is a huge win for them. Former Roses Academy head coach in Northern Ireland, so she's vastly experienced, and I know she's particularly skilled in terms of the sort of athlete-coach relationship building piece, so I think that's going to be a real key cog in the machine for Noz. What do you think, having seen the squads now, for Nottingham Forest, what's going to be the key challenges that they're going to face?
I think for Nottingham Forest, because they're probably the only team that's like coming really from scratch. So like a Birmingham Panthers, you've got a whole road of people from Seven Stars have come in, including Joe Tripp, head coach. From Saracens Mavericks, now they're London Mavericks. You've got certain players that were already in and amongst it, so they're adding to that and making those changes. So, but with Nottingham Forest netball, it's completely new. You do have a couple of combinations that have played together. So the likes of Iona Christian and Hannah Layton with Scotland. Ria Dixon and Brie Grierson, they were together at Leeds Rhinos for a few years. And then you've got Jada Pekova and Tash Pavlin that played at Team Bath. And so you've got some strong combinations, but it's now whether they can pull that together to make a full team. And then develop your culture, develop your style. That all takes time. And so, I think they're starting from a further backspace, if that's the right word.
Further back than some of the other teams.
Further back than some of the other teams. But it could prove fruitful.
Yeah, I think it's really, really exciting. And it's interesting that you talk about, building the brand, building the culture. You were, of course, part of Seven Stars at their conception as the inaugural director of netball. So tell us a little bit about that journey that Forest and Chelsea are going to be going on, and the players, of course, to create this franchise from scratch. How do you build your kind of self-defining brand?
Yeah, it's difficult, and it's kind of getting the right people on board, because it's not just the players. You're looking at all your support staff as well. You're looking at all your marketing, your communications, your game day experience. Like everything has to be on the same wavelength, and it's getting everyone on that same page with you. And then your product, your players on the court to perform at their best level because they feel well supported and they have all the tools that they need to take out on court. And so that journey it takes time. And it takes a lot of communication and working and understanding different people. And then also for Chelsea, it'll be like setting, how do you want this team to look and how do you want them to play? and then being able to communicate that well and show that well so that all the players come on board with that.
And I think there's a couple of things for me. Like if any team were going to start from scratch, the fact that it's a team that's linked to a Premier League football club is probably the best choice. Like they've got the best and biggest resources, you could argue, behind them. So I think that's really smart. We've already spoken about the infrastructure that's behind Chelsea from a coaching perspective with Sarah, with Shona, etc. But I also think from the interview that we did with Chelsea, last season, maybe a season before, I think she's really principled and she has a really strong core set of values, and she is so genuine and she has so much integrity and she's so honest and open. And I think those values are possibly going to be a really strong influence in building the brand of Nottingham Forest.
Oh, totally agree. And I totally agree. And I think with that strong sense of grounding that she has, she can then work off that, and it's going to be so key. And like you said, that support network around you, have been part of Nottingham Forest, like
brag, right?
You know, football club that's up there. You've got all these different resources that you can pull on, and they've said, yes, we're going to share all of this with you. So how lucky are they? And that's where we should be throughout the world. And then you add in the netball side of things.
And speaking of the netball side of things, we'll talk about a couple of the players that they have signed. You mentioned the existing partnerships, but we've also got Felida Kadondi, who's come in from Uganda. We've got Rolene Strucker from South Africa. How much firepower do you reckon they're going to bring to Forest? Because they're two major pickups.
Oh, I love it. Felida, so impressed with her when she was on the court in the that January series that we
Nations
had.
Cup,
so impressed with that she was in that Nations Cup. Like, just the game sense she has and the ability to get around players and pick up ball. Like, I loved it. So good. Get that in defence. And then Rolene Strucker, goal shooter. When you talk about someone that can hold space, she can. And then when you talk about someone that's accurate on the shot, she can do that. She did go over to SSN, didn't get much time with Mavericks down there. She was pulled in from a training partner position. But then the fact that she's just developed her game. And whenever I've seen it, even when they played Australia, I saw her come onto the court, no fear. It didn't matter who she had on her. She held her space well. She took some phenomenal ball, put it through the net.
Yep.
And that's what you want from your goal shooter. So to have that strong, those targets at both ends, and then you work with the partnerships that's already been created in the middle of it. It's all, like I said, how do you make that thread intertwine throughout the whole squad to be successful?
Yeah, and I think Strucker in particular is probably my one to watch from the attacking end. I think at 23 years of age, I think she is, to go into SSN environment, play 3 games or whatever it was with Mavericks, really hold her own, to go from 0 to 100. I think she is going to absolutely blow this league apart, and I honestly cannot wait to see her.
Yeah, no, totally agree. And I think what she also epitomised is that mental strength. Like she did have if I remember correctly, she said it herself, like there was a wobble where she lost a little bit of confidence in her own gameplay and whatnot, and how she was turning to the post and all that. She worked on that. And then when you see her again, like these past couple of years, you just go, you are amazing. Well done, you.
Yeah, cannot wait. Next up then is our second newbie franchise, Birmingham Panthers, of course, led by Jo Tripp. Now, she's done very well to keep 6 of the players from the 2024 7-star squad together, meaning that several of those all-important connections are already there and established. What do you make of the players that she's chosen to move forward with from 7 stars?
She's developed a core, hasn't she? So she came into 7 stars and she always talked about I want good people in my squad, and I want people that will learn and will be like sponges, and I can develop them into a team. She didn't have like stars, so to speak. They were, in some teams they were either bench players or they'd been in and out of selection, but then she made them into her starting 7. And it showed last year how far they've come in terms of reaching that those semi-finals and finishing 4th. I think Jo knows exactly what she's trying to do in terms of moving forward and pushing on, and that is shown by the additional players that she's added into there. But the fact that she's got the core, she knows who they are, she knows what they like, she knows how to get them best out of them. She's brought them along with her to start, rather than, like we say, starting from scratch again. She's not, is she? She's starting with players in a group that she's known, and they've already started to play in the brand that she wants them to play in.
Yeah, you mentioned some of those new players. Gabby Coffey is, of course, one of them, a Melbourne Vixens training partner previously. She, out of all of the Australian imports that are coming over to NSL this season, she is the one that I think has picked up the most buzz. She was, of course, part of the First Nations Black Swan side who took on the Australian National Championships. An incredible defender. What do you think we can expect from her?
Well, when you've got Shadi Norder, ex-Diamonds, raving about her, you know she's going to be something special. And I think it's really interesting. It'll be really interesting to see how she kind of comes in and develops, playing alongside Jazz Brown. We love Jazz Brown, and we know we've seen how much that she's improved. And last year was that breakthrough year of getting more court time in. So that combination, I'm very excited about, and see how they work in that goalkeeper goal defence position.
Yeah, and I think, with Jazz being so fresh onto the scene as well, she needs that kind of really strong, experienced player out the front of her to be able to create opportunities for those intercepts. So I think it's going to be quite a special combination, actually. And finally on Panthers, before we move on to Mavericks, of course, Jo, this is going to be her first year just as head coach. She's put the bibs down now. She's no longer going to be a player coach. What impact do you think this will have on the side?
Very well. I'm just one person before we go to Jo, Gabby Sinclair.
Oh, Gabby Sinclair. How have we not mentioned Gabby Sinclair? That's terrible. How good to have her back. Oh. She dominated 2023? 2023, yes. 2023. And I think it's really unfortunate she had the injuries during the season, because hands down, she would have been goal attack of the team of the year for me.
Oh, definitely. As a goal attack, you want to be shooting between 18 to 25 shots a game. She will do that consistently for you.
From range as well.
Range, exactly. She's not just on the plate. She can shoot from anywhere in that circle. And that, I think that will really complement Ziggy. And she's playing with such confidence. And I think she's got a great style on her. She's a good feeder in that playmaker position, but she can shoot. And that's what you need. So that's a big pickup from Jo. And I think it helps, her now, she's solely coach, no player coach anymore. And we saw her earlier. She came in today to the Sky Sports studios to do her interview. And she's saying it's just nice now to have focus on that one job. And I can really give my knowledge to all the players. I feel sorry for them already, because those fitness sessions, now she's not in it, she's going to be pushing them to be even fitter. So I think it's good. It's a good move for her. I think she's developed. So she was coach of the year, wasn't she, last year?
2 years in a row.
2 years in a row, yeah. So her ability to, I think, draw the best out of players and create them into a solid team, I think, should only get better now she's in that one role.
Yeah, absolutely. So much excitement in that side. Next up then, London Mavericks head coach Camilla Buchanan, but they've been bolstered now by director of netball Tamsin Greenway, the legend that is, assistant coach Mickey Austin as well, obviously formerly head coach of Surrey Storm. Having these three coaches with so much experience to help lead this Super League side is just fantastic. But to play devil's advocate, could there be a little bit of too many cooks spoil the broth, especially with such big characters and such big names? Is there a slight danger there for Mavericks, do you think?
Well, you don't know, do you? We won't know until we see it. But to reiterate what you said, what names, right?
You've got Tamsin Greenway. I've played with her and also been coached by her, and her strategic nous of the game is just next level. The way she can build players up and take their strengths and make them into superpowers is such a key asset, and how she reads the game, so good. And then you've got Camilla, who's got another year now under her belt as head coach. She's bringing that consistency from Mavericks in order to keep building on what they've been trying to do over the years and get into those finals. And then you've got Mickey, who players that have been under her have just said how she can read the game and how she can deliver key points at crucial times as a coach. Her technical knowledge is so good. And when you bring all those three strengths together, surely you're onto a winner.
Yeah, I mean, really, we say, could it be too many cooks spoil the broth? But actually, could it be a master stroke instead? Like you say, Tamsin, technical brilliance, strategic brilliance. Mickey is hands down probably one of the hardest workers I've ever met in my life. And then Camilla's that consistency from Saracens over to London Mavericks. I mean, it could be an absolute recipe for success, right?
Oh, it definitely could be. And I think the fact that these players have the opportunity to tap into three coaches of that level, and a lot of them have said we've gone because of the coaching. And so I think that's such a key for Mavericks. And with all the other things they're trying to do to move this game to a more professional level and all the off-court side of things, as well as the on-court, it's in such a strong position that surely this should be Mavericks, yes.
If ever there was going to be a year, you would have to think now this is the year. I mean, we say this every time and they do break my heart, but yeah, surely this is the year. And I think as well, if we look at, some of the players that they've got, obviously they've got the two bookend of Aussie imports, Emily Andrew, Vixen's training partner, shooter, Chelsea Blackman's Thunderbirds training partner, goalkeeper, goal defense, that coming from that really high performance professional environment, even though they weren't full squad members, they were training partners, but they're training week in, week out with the best in the world. Like, that's only going to lift the level of the Netball Super League.
Oh, definitely. Well, when you're up against a Kira Austin and a Sophie Garvin, like that play for Vixens, for example, week in, week out, and then you're in that professional training environment that SSN is. Like, of course, you pick up stuff and you retain stuff, and that lifts your game a bit further. Yes, there are training partners, so that level below haven't quite made it into SSN, but they've got this opportunity now to come over to the Super League and bring that experience to help develop those others around them. And then when you've got the likes of a Vicky Oyesolo and a Rasquashi, like, they are brick walls. When they are on fire, it's so hard to penetrate. They've had a few injuries over the years, and I think we're yet to see like a consistent season backed up. So if they can both stay fit, I think that defensive end is really going to be really strong.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And actually, it's really interesting speaking to Camilla earlier. She said that one of the real focuses of this new look London Maverick side is actually they're going to be like really attacking focus. And I think when you take a look at the squad, particularly in that midcourt, we've got Susie Liversidge, who by the sounds of it is transitioning away from that goal attack role more into a wing attack centre. And I think that could be an absolute masterstroke for them.
Definite game changer, I'd say, especially for Susie, because yes, we haven't predominantly seen her at goal attack, but at times she's not been putting up many shots. And as a goal attack, you want to be in that kind of 18 plus each game. And at times she was at like 4, maybe 6. And she looked uncomfortable as well. And once the defenders know you're not sure on yourself, they're all over you. So if you take away that pressure, which Mavericks are doing, and for her to go, yeah, actually, let's try it out. She is such a great playmaker. Her vision into that circle, her movement, getting free from defenders, take that shooting pressure away from her, and let's talk about superpowers, those superpowers to elevate them more. So that will, I believe, will definitely help that attacking end for them. And then you've got the likes of Emma Thacker, who I think has developed really nicely. I like her as a goal shooter and a goal attacker, and I think she's starting to find her feet. A youngster moving from Lightning into that Mavericks team, getting more court time. She is their go-to shooter now. So how can she develop her game another level? We talk about with these coaches, surely she's going to be a sponge and she can eat that up.
Yeah, I think it's really exciting times for London Mavericks. I know that 5th position has plagued them for a number of years, and they actually finished lower than that in 2024. Losing track of my years, but I think this is probably the most exciting time or the most exciting prospects that they've had for a little while. So cannot wait to see what they deliver.
And don't forget Izzy Phillips.
Of course, how can you forget Izzy Phillips?
You can't. That youngster was just fire last year. It's not just what she does on court, but for one so young, she has such a presence about her and such a strong mindset that it's beautiful to watch. And like I say, add all that into the cauldron, there is a lot of potential in that Maverick side.
Yeah, for sure. And then you've only got the likes of Ellie Ratu to kind of back her up as well. And it's probably the greatest depth that we've seen from them for a number of years. They've really got a variety of options to be able to pull from now. And obviously the young player of the season from last year, like Izzy, is absolutely categorically going to shine, in my opinion. Moving on, then next up is Cardiff Dragons, led by Renga Bloxham. It's an interesting one for Dragons. I think last season we expected a lot from them, and I think there were occasions where they didn't quite deliver. They just weren't able to click and gel in some way, and I can't quite put my finger on why that is. But how do you think the Dragons are going to stack up this year, looking at the squad?
Yeah, to touch on last year, same. I was with you there. I thought they would finish a lot higher up, and I think the likes of a Jackie Newton that came in from Collingwood Magpies in Australia, and that experience that she was bringing, at times she was just next level good. The ball she could take, I was like, this is amazing. You've got the likes of Casey Chuane, the South African centre court, Speedy Gonzalez, powerful in there. But then you also had Elle McDonald, English Rose. She missed a couple of games at the start of the season. So I just don't think they really properly gelled as a team and were able to put out those performances week in, week out. There were some games they lost marginally to, but still, last year wasn't as good as we would have thought they would have been. This year round, they've kept a core group. So Elle's still in there, Casey's still in there, Jackie Newton, Leah Middleton. I think her move from Storm, she's now elevated her game. But again, it's how can they all click together? Defensively, centre court, I think quite sure. Where they could struggle, though, I think is in that shooting end. Chelsea Bird is in. Some fans will know as Chelsea Lewis, a former Welsh feather. She's had quite a few seasons out of the game. She's now returning back into it. And whether that connection or whether if they need to make changes with Georgia Rowe and Philippa Yarrington, you've only got squads of 10 now, so you're limited. Is that enough in there that will kind of see them through? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not quite sold yet, but obviously proof will be in the pudding. But I think another consideration for them is regarding the sort of coaching setup. And, you know, with Renga Bloxham coming in, this is the third coach in as many years that they've had. So obviously Danny Titmus-Morris, Jill McIntosh, and now Bloxham as well. And inevitably that's going to have an impact on the squad when you've got all these changes happening around you. How much do you think that had an impact on them last year?
I think it definitely does have an impact because for me personally, from experience, I know that some of the best coaches I've worked with, you've spent seasons with them. You've grown. You understand their style of play. You understand what they're trying to do with the team. But likewise, they understand you as not just a player, but as a person. And they work to bring that best out of you to complement the whole squad. And I think when you've got a lot of changes and you've got a lot of different ideas each season, you're having to relearn and you're almost having to start again. So definitely that does play an impact. But then when you find that right coach, and Renga could be, and if she's going to be here for a few seasons, and we know Jill McIntosh is staying in a kind of overseeing capacity, so you've got a little bit of consistency there. Can that then form to build for the future? But it has shown previously that whether it's the coaches or players or what, that whole connection hasn't worked for Cardiff Dragons.
And Renga Bloxham, I think, is a really interesting signing because obviously she has seen a lot of success. She's really experienced coach. She won ANZ titles 2017, 2018. But then they did have that really long losing streak. I think it's a 21 game losing streak around 2023. They only got a handful of wins on the board in 2024. And there was a really poignant article with her actually where she sort of said, you know, I was doubting myself as a coach and my ability and the team's ability. But with the success behind her and with that Kiwi flair, I mean, how much do you think that's going to rub off on the team?
Yeah, it's definitely like the Kiwi style of play it's an exciting one. And I was at Mystics and I love my tenant and I love watching what they can do. But it's now transferring that to they've got such a blend of different nationalities in that team. How do you bring them all under one and make everyone kind of shine? I think she's, like you say, she's had that experience of winning. Yes, the last time was back in 2017 and 2018, but she's got that in the back and she has that experience of being in there. She spent some time with the Welsh Feathers and so she knows some of the players. So this side you've got quite a few of those feathers in it. So she gets the benefit, you could say, of spending time with them as a Wales and as a Cardiff Dragons. So yeah, how can she now step into this role and make that a complete change in there? Because I know Dragons have, like every team in the Super League, they have aspirations to be up there. They don't want to be fighting for the wooden spoon. Everyone wants to be at the top, and change needs to happen.
Yeah, be really fascinating to see how they go. Next up then, moving on to Manchester Thunder, led by the legendary Karen Gregg. I mean, what can you even say about a Thunder side? Like every single year, they are just stacked beyond belief. And, exactly the same for 2025. They actually have the highest number of Roses and Roses Futures players in the competition for next year. It's really hard to see where this squad may struggle. And I absolutely would bet my mortgage on the fact that they'll be sort of top 2, top 3 come the pointy end of the season. And we say this every year, but where can Thunder go wrong? Where can they be found out?
Well, yeah, you say about the amount of Roses players that they have in the squad, but what are the other internationals as well? They're just packed full. Elmirae Vandenberg, her season last year developed for the South African international. By the end of it, she had just completely changed. She was so strong. The final, I think, let her down in terms of that experience. Like she was doing things that we hadn't necessarily seen in the earlier part of the season, but then she's learned from that. You've got Nicola Smith that's moved over from Loughborough Lightning. I think she was definitely part of that, the reason that Loughborough Lightning beat them in last year's final. She had 5 penalties in the whole game. Like for a defender.
Outrageous.
Exactly. Outrageous. And another one that over the season, her first year in the Super League, just became this weapon. She's got height, she's strong, and she can really start to sense how the game plays to be able to get those turnovers. And then you look at the likes of a Josie Huckle, 4 Super League titles under her belt, but she's still a sponge. She still wants to learn, and she looks like she's having the best time of her life. Like her netball is going so well because she's just loving it. And as a squad, I think they are so strong. And Karen Gregg does this every year, just like you say. She picks players that she knows she can do good things with, and she knows she can help improve them. Where they went wrong last year, I think Lightning did a really good job in assessing what those weaknesses was. They lost a little bit in terms of getting ball turnover, but also that experience against the Lightning that they've got at 14 plus years each in some of their mid-cod players. Whereas, as I said, Vandenberg, first year in the Super League. So that experience wasn't there. And like a Lois Pearson, who I thought was so good, but how many finals and how many times has she been in those positions? So another year under their belt with those learnings, a key intersection with Nicola Smith. Let's see what they can do this year. They're definitely, I agree with you, going to be in that final.
Yeah, deadly, man, deadly. And I think as well, obviously, they've lost Imogen Allison to Queensland Firebirds and SSM, which is going to be a huge loss for them. But they always seem to be able to retain a solid core of players. And some of them have been with the club for what seems like donkey's years, like, your Nat Metcalf, for example. So what is it about Thunder? How do they manage to retain such a consistent team year on year?
Well, it's that culture that's been built, and you have to give credit to Karen Gregg. Like the players really respect her. They know she'll be honest and open with them and tell them, this is what I want to see from you, and this is how I think you can develop yourself to be that. I think they all looked like they were having so much fun last year, as in a collective unit, off the court as well as on the court. And when you're in an environment where you're learning, you're developing, you're given opportunities, and you're playing with your mates, like surely that's a recipe for success. And I think that Thunder pathway has been so strong for so many years. And when you already know the Thunder way, it's a lot easier to kind of set in and get everyone on that same hymn sheet.
Yeah, I mean, when we did our episode with Karen Gregg, it was literally on building a dynasty, because that is exactly what they've done, and the fruits of their labour is evident year on year on year. And the other thing with Thunder, I think Karen Gregg, for one, is extremely underrated as a coach. Like, she is exceptional, and the way she's able to bring the best out of people is just next level. But the thing for me is that if you look at the tables for last year, Thunder didn't have a single player in the top 10 for penalties last year, but they're also renowned for that really hard one-on-one tight defense. So they're able to challenge and win ball and put in a real tough physical contest, but they're able to do it cleanly. And like that's the secret sauce, right?
Well, you have to be in the game if you're constantly getting called for contact and you're standing out of play, which are the rules, then the rest of your team have to pick up the slack for you, and you're one lady short. So if you've got a team that can stay in the game, that can make sure your defensive setups are there and everyone is on that job, you're going to turn over ball and you're going to turn over it more. So to have those kind of stats is phenomenal. And then it helps then to get those turnovers or deny your opposition and get that ball down to your attackers to score those goals.
And I think just one final word on Thunder. All these things are coming to me as we're talking about them. Before we move on to Leeds Rhinos, I think the other thing that they managed to do ever so well is that blend of youth and experience. And obviously we've got Ellia McCormick coming into the defence end, who's had, a little trouble with injury before, but now she's back. Emma Rayner coming through in that mid-court as well. Lois Pearson has just become ridiculously good. Like, I don't even have the words to say how good she is currently. But they do get that blend of youth and experience just spot on.
Yeah, exactly what you've said. And you need that. That's what makes a solid squad, because you want those youngsters to be able to come in, be fearless, and off-put the opposition because they haven't really seen them or they don't really know them inside out. But then you need that experience in there, the clear heads that when things get tough, they're the ones that step up and they're the ones that are going to see you through, but also to help those youngsters coming through. And I always quote, like Karen Atkinson used to say when Serena Guthrie came into the squad, she said Serena was just a breath of fresh air and a light, and that energy just helped her get more out of her game and be able to play for longer. So it works both ways. The experience helps the youngsters grow, and the youngsters give the experience a little bit of fun times.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's see how they go in 2025. Our penultimate team then is Leeds Rhinos, led by Kiwi legend Liana Leota. And I think having a look at the squad, with the exception of Jiva Mentor and Joyce Mvula at either end of the court, I think it's probably fair to say that they don't have a huge number of blockbuster sign-ins, shall we say. Do you think that they have enough experience or firepower across the court to be able to break into that top four next year?
I don't. For me, it's like I said, those big names, those big stars, you wouldn't really say that. You've got the likes of a Jiva Mentor, big name, of course, but come into the latter part of her career, but still can do such a solid job. And you've got Joyce Mvula down the other end, shooter, again, a name that's been in the Super League, has been over in New Zealand to play the Malawi International. So they've both done it on the international and the national stage. But it's just really the two of them that are those big names. And it's whether those around them can step up. And some of them are quite young. I'm excited about seeing Ella Bowen, to how she works with Jiva, because she's a hassler. She will go for ball. And she's consistently developed year on year. Been in high performance environments with Loughborough Lightning and Manchester Thunder. So key partnership there. But you look into the centre court and that it's quite, I would say, inexperienced in terms of that next level jump. So you've got a Bethany Britton that has played Super League, but not quite made that into the national stepper. I was excited about Cassie Howard. I thought last year she really started to show some things, and I'm looking forward to seeing Sophie Egberon in that shooting goal attack position. The youngster has shown in Super League, but she's got a great split landing. That's how well she can take the ball in the circle and get closer to the post. But is that going to be enough to support Joyce and Mvula? Because when Joyce has got someone in front of her that's also at her kind of level and in there, we really see the best of Joyce. When she has to maybe work a little bit harder because she's working with that inexperience, then that might make it tougher for her. And so I think Leeds Rhinos they're ones that are there flying under the radar, and we've just got to wait and see what they can do and what, like you say, the legend Liana Leota can sprinkle some magic on them.
Yeah, the shooting end in particular is quite a keen interest to me, because like you say, we've got Sophie Egbaran, we've got Harriet Jones, both quite young, but is that shooting end, bar Joyce, just a little bit too young currently?
No, I definitely agree with you. I think that there is that experience is lacking, and especially up against some of the defenders that we do have in our league, who are very strong, very tactically aware, and know how to get into the heads of their opposition. And can those youngsters stand up to that is to be seen, but I think it's going to be a really tough ask for them.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that's the best thing for them, isn't it? That really tough competition, and it'll either make or break you, really. So let's see how they go. And the other thing about rhinos we've seen over the last probably 3 years or so, every year they've changed their squad quite significantly. And this year it is sort of similar. They've managed to retain 4 of last year's squad across the 3/3 of the court. But how difficult is it as a player to really find that cohesion and that unity when the squad is changing quite drastically every season?
Yeah, it's tough, and it's like what we were saying about the coach. When a coach changes, often you don't get to make those connections. You don't get to understand each other deeply and be able to have those sometimes awkward conversations where you need to really challenge stuff and try it out, and then you build over a season, like over seasons, sorry. So I mean, personally, those best combinations that I had, for example, Rachel Dunn and Tamsin Greenway and Sarah Francis Bayman. How many years did we play together at Team Bath, and then with T and Rach going to Surrey Storm? You've got that under your belt because you know each other inside out, and you know what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, how you can help them if they're in a bad situation, get out of it, or how you can improve their skill, and likewise back to you. And so when you're playing with different people every single season, you're starting again in some cases because you have to then relearn and readapt sometimes your game. And that can be difficult. And these rhinos have found themselves in that position.
Yeah, it'd be intriguing to see how they get on and whether, this squad going forward is the squad that they back for, within reason for the next sort of couple of years, bar 1 or 2 players changing, or whether they are going to change it all over again for 2026. Who knows? Who knows? And our final team then are the reigning champions, Loughborough Lightning, led by Vic Burgess. And I think the biggest eyebrow raiser for this team, in my opinion at least, is undoubtedly the signing of Trinidad and Tobago shooter, former New South Wales Swift, Sam Wallace-Joseph. Now, we know that her and the Swifts parted ways by mutual agreement, and the Swift statement said the following, and I quote, "For the past number of weeks, the club have been working with Samantha Wallace-Joseph and her management in relation to a matter which concerned her behaviour within the team environment. The behavioural standard expected of everyone in the Swifts environment across players, coaches and staff is team first, and there are no exceptions to that." I mean, reading that, my alarm bells would be ringing in the back of my head. So I'm quite surprised to see her back in the Netball Super League given this statement. Are you surprised to see her back?
It's very rare that a contract is terminated mid-season. And so you can't wash that or sprinkle that roses. Something drastic has happened there. And you have to say, they haven't shared what that is publicly. And so the only thing you can take from that is that I know how principled Loughborough Lightning are and the values that they really hold dear. And we see that each week, and how they promote diversity across all those areas. And so they have got all the information that they can get their hands on, and they've made a decision based on those values. And so we can't knock that decision. And so for them, that is the route that's being taken. And Sam Wallace-Joseph, in her day, was a phenomenal player. Like she's been injured, but also and didn't get much court time this year with Swifts. And this obviously story is potentially why she wasn't getting much court time. Also, we know about her injury. So how she can fit into that side and how she can use that strength, and if what we know of her from the past is still there, because of what we know of her from the past, she can hold like no one's business. To get the ball off her is so hard, and she's so accurate on the shot. So we can't say anything. It's because we don't know all the information, or all the information hasn't been publicly shared. But Loughborough Lightning have got that, and they've made their decision, and so you roll with that.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. And I think as well, the social media issue around Easter Sunday, and that just so happened to coincide with International Transgender Day visibility, and the post that she put out about the disrespect. When Lightning have been such trailblazers in the Netball Super League from an LGBTQ plus inclusion perspective, like for me, I'd be keen to see how she fits into their culture and how she blends with the players on court. But I think if you look at her within the shooting setup, they've obviously managed to get Berry Neal as well, which is a huge win for them. And if you think about Sam Wallace, let's assume that her knee is back to normal. She's back to being her very best. Her with an Ella Clark and a Berry Neal, that could be lethal, right?
Oh, it really could. Like Berry Neal is up there for me. When she came blasted onto the scene for Pulse and really showed how strong she was and how creative she could be as a goal attack, those baseline drives. Oh, yes. But now people have seen her, she's been exposed. So for me, is how can she adapt her game to be able to, when she gets shut down, can she do something different? And being in and amongst that squad of experience, there's so many years of Netball Super League experience with your Ella Clarks, with your Hannah Josephs, with your Beth Cobdens, with your Nat Panagarys. Can that now elevate her game to another level? And working in that circle, like you say, if Sam Joseph Wallace is as what we know she can be, that will be such a hard circle to stop. And Ella Clark, so great to see her back in and amongst it after her ACL injury. So yeah, you've got some strong attackers there in that squad.
Yeah, you really do. And then I think defensively as well, obviously you got Alice Harvey as their kind of rock at the back. The other sort of surprising signings, I suppose, for me was of Shadeen van der Merwe and Jodie Gibson. Now, let me preface this by saying I love the pair of them and I'm delighted that they're still playing in the Super League. But I do think it's intriguing that they've both been signed to the same team, as I think their goal defense games are fairly similar. Well, what do you make of both of them going to Lightning?
Yeah, I agree with you both. Shadeen makes me smile when I watch her play. When she can come out for some of those balls from, like, you just think, where did you come from to get that interception? And that ability to attack down the court and drive into that attacking third for her attackers. Awesome. Jodie Gibson, similar. But I agree with you. They're both similar players. They're both strong on those one-on-ones. They both have that great closing speed to be able to come for ball. So when you've got a squad of 10, and you're trying to, you might need to adapt things to combat different styles of opposition. If you've got two players that are similar, and they're also quite short for defenders.
Yeah.
So high balls going over potentially could beat them in time if they're not winning that ball earlier up the court. So could be an issue for them in terms of wanting something different, because they are similar in their style of play.
But I mean, going for the three-peat for 2025, you know, they've obviously doing something right. So I'm sure Vic has a plan. She knows what she's doing. She's got a good idea.
Definitely. But also, when we talk about like versatility or changing up the squad, how many times do we go, Loughborough Lightning have a starting seven?
Yeah.
And they will use that starting seven if they could for the full 60 minutes. So if you've got those players fit and raring to go, like we saw in that final, they can turn over games and they can win. But if you have some injuries potentially, if you take out one of those, like when they didn't have Beth Cobden or when they didn't have Hannah Joseph or Nat Panagari was out for a little bit, those key linchpins in the squad, if they're not all on the court or firing at the same time, that's when problems we have seen in the past, and that's where they could become unstuck.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see whether they explore a bit more of a mixed up lineup or a bit more versatility in their play, because I think you're absolutely right. If one of them goes down, you don't want the whole thing to unravel. So how do they combat that going into 2025? Well, Pam, I've got one final question for you, just to put you on the spot. Out of all of the squads and all of the players that we've spoken about, can you pick for me a shooter, a mid-quarter, and a defender from any team that's your one to watch, or someone that you want to keep an eye on for 2025?
Oh, tricky one. But okay, I'm gonna leave my shooters to the end. So let's start with defense. And if it's all right with you, I'm gonna go for a partnership.
Yeah, go on then, I'll let you off.
Thank you. Birmingham Panthers. Gabby Kofi and Jazz Brown. Jazz Brown just blew up Super League last year, and she's just gone from strength to strength. And I've heard such great things from Gabby. When you've got Shani Norder, ex-Australian Diamond, bigging a player up, you know there's something special there. And I think that combination together should really work nicely, and they will turn over ball. And when you've got Joe Tripp, who's now fully in that coaching role, giving that direction for the whole 60 minutes from the bench without blowing for air as she's playing, I think that defensive unit is going to be really, really strong. And so those two as a partnership, definitely for me in the defensive end.
Yeah.
Moving to the midcourt, Isabel Phillips, superstar in the making. Well, she already is. She's smart, she's creative, she's dynamic on the court. She can turn over ball. She's now going to be predominantly wing defense, what we're hearing her more favoured position. And then working with the likes of Tamsin, Mickey, and Camilla. They're all centre court players. She's going to soak up some information and soak up so much knowledge that she can take to develop her game to the next level.
Love that. Yeah. And shooters?
And then in the shooter, I'm going for South African Elmarie Vanderberg. Again, another player that last year you really saw her progression, and she's had a year under her belt now. She's learned what it's like to play in the big leagues. But as a goal shooter or a goal attack, her versatility, her height, her accuracy and her movement, she's going to be a really special one to watch, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree. And actually her out of goal attack, I think, is a complete game changer. It changes the style of play so significantly, probably more so than a lot of other goal shooter goal attacks. There's just something about her that I think that's an excellent choice. Well, Pam, it has been a pleasure. Thank you ever so much for joining me to run the rule over all 8 teams for 2025. And I hope you're excited as I am, because I am buzzing for next season.
Me too. Oh, it's always a pleasure talking with you. Like, you make it so fun. What a day we've had, like, to be at the Sky Sports Studios to do this launch. Like, Sky are just taking the game. They do so much and trying to build it even further. And as we go into this professional era that we're getting, it's going to take time, but we need that support, and to have that is fab. The players are there. They're the stars of the show. They're the ones that if they're not there, it doesn't happen. So we've found out who they all are for all 8 teams. Excited to see what they can do, and I'm also just excited to see where this professionalization could take us and develop netball even further. So just like you said, I am buzzing for 2025. Bring it on.
Bring it on indeed. Pamela Cookey, thank you ever so much.
Oh, pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Qtr Time Podcast. Make sure you subscribe to the pod and follow us on social media at Qtr Time Pod for the latest netball updates. Get involved in the conversation online by letting us know what you think of the squad announcements and which teams you're looking forward to watching when the season kicks off.
We would really appreciate it if you could just take a moment to rate and review, as it does really help other people to find the podcast. If you enjoy listening to the pod, do let us know and spread the word with your netball pals so that even more people can get involved.
Although we have been on a bit of a break with the pod this year, don't worry, we will be getting back in your ears again, and we'll keep you updated with more information as we get closer to the start of the season.
Take care, everyone, and see you soon. Bye.
Bye.